So, Haji Amanullah, give me a little brief history of this mosque. I can record. Yeah, please.
Let me ask you questions.
Yes.
So in that response, help us understand original members of the community here in Dayton.
The original members of the community was a poor family. There was about 8 or 9 or 10 people who actually started the Ahmadiyya Mosque group in Dayton, Ohio. They grew, as I understand it from my time, to almost 300.
300.
Almost 300 back in the 40s and the early 50s, etc. They started losing members in the late.
Before we go there, who was the first missionary influencing this area?
Now you're going back too far beyond my time. That gentleman, I can't. The only one that I knew was Nasir Abdul. There was another one, but I can't recall his name.
That's fine.
Before my time.
Okay. So there were up to 300 Ahmadis members, or
Is it Sufi Matiur Rahman?
But yeah, I think so.
That was the missionary
so.
here?
That, I think so.
Okay.
Not for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
So there were around 300 Ahmadi members in this community at one time.
I was told that there was almost 300 at one time. I don't think it lasted very long because something occurred in the Jamaat before my time that members left.
So when was the first time the mosque was built? Around what year?
As I understand, the mosque was built, they broke ground in 1955.
1955.
1955. They built the mosque and had 2 or 3 renovations before it was finally done.
So
in May of 1965.
So 65. So 55, the foundation was laid. It was a ground, or it was a pre-built house?
It was just a hole in the ground.
Oh, okay.
They extracted, just made a hole in the ground.
Okay.
That lasted for a number of years. As I understand it, the building itself wasn't built until sometime in the early or mid 50s.
Okay.
Oh, late 50s, I'd say.
Okay.
I saw a picture of the building, and it had at least 2 renovations before the final built mosque was built.
Yeah. So the original building was a mosque structure. It was not a house bought and then converted into a mosque.
It was built as a mosque.
As a mosque. And this is, our understanding is that that's the first Ahmadiyya mosque in United States of America, which was built as a mosque.
Built, by converts.
By converts.
And that's another significant is
Right.
the major contributor were convert to Ahmadiyya Jamaat. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Very good. And you have been here in this community since...
I came to this community as an Ahmadi or a potential Ahmadi in May of 1972.
72, okay.
And I signed bail in August of 1972.
So when you accept Islam?
I accepted Islam in 1963 or 64.
How old are you at that time?
Now?
No, that
How
time.
old were
At
you
that
at
time,
that?
I just came from the service. I was about 21.
21?
About 22 years old.
So you accepted Ahmadiyyat in 1972?
It's 72, yes.
Why?
Why? The Brother Bengali Sahib, the missionary, used to walk up and down the street, and I lived in the neighborhood, and I worked for the government at the time, and he used to always tell me, "Brother, when are you coming home?" And I always loved him because he was a very beautiful man. His speech and the way he explained Islam to me was just perfect.
Who was his name?
Bengali Khan Sahib. Brother Bengali Khan. Rahman Bengali.
Abdul Rahman.
Abdul Rahman, yes. And his demeanor and his popularity in the community, he was very, very popular. He used to walk from here all the way downtown. He spoke to everybody. Everybody in the community knew him. And we all loved him so. We used to call him the little man in the red dress, with the white beard. But it was his demeanor and the way he taught Islam that attracted my attention. Of course, I knew Brother Zafar and the old members there, and we were all friends. We grew up together. And at that time, I was looking for an Islam that I could actually practice. As a Sunni, we were Muslims, but I didn't have the spiritual connection to God that I thought I should have. I was a Muslim. But the spiritual connection that was explained to me in Ahmadiyya was altogether different. And I saw a whole new light of Islam. I saw people who practiced the religion that they talked about. And that attracted me.
Okay, I get it.
And that's how the day I got here, I got to say this, a gentleman had murdered my sister. And I had just buried her now about a mile from here. And I was carrying a pistol, because we say, if someone kills your family, you retaliate. I told the police I was going to kill this man. They put him in jail to keep me from killing him. But when I buried my sister, I cried, I got in the car, and by the grace of God, he doesn't live in this neighborhood, but for some reason I came to this neighborhood. I didn't live here then. And when I got here in front of the mosque, and this is the honest to God truth, someone said, stop and go in there. And it scared me. And I pulled up a little bit further, I stopped, and I said, what? And I started to take off again, and someone said, stop, go in there. Now at the time, as a Sunni, I had been told, never go in here. Never. And the black Muslims say, don't go there because white people were there. So I had no intention of ever coming here. But that day, my heart said, stop, or something told me stop to go. So I turned the car around, I came in. Shukrullah Hussein was here at them days.
Shukrullah, sir.
Yes, sir. And I walked in the mosque when they were downstairs having tea. He invited me to have tea, and I talked to him for a few minutes. And I said, his brother's office here. He said, no, he'll be here later. I said, well, I'll come back then. By the grace of God, it stopped me long enough to make me think about what I was getting ready to do, how it would hurt my mother, my family if I did that. And that little time I stopped saved me from committing murder.
Oh.
And I submitted, I cried. I came in the mosque, I sat down and I cried. When I got through crying, I went home. I took off all my gear, everything I had, and I came back, and Brother Zafar was here. And we started talking about the teachings of Islam. He'd given me the book and everything already. I just hadn't really studied it and paid that much attention to it. And we talked about it, and I started learning prayer, because I wanted to pray. And he started teaching me how to pray. From that moment, I wasn't Ahmadi, but I had come home to becoming a real Muslim, praying regularly, making my prayers. So we made our prayers in the mosque regularly all the time. I actually didn't accept the Prophet of Islam at that time. I kept saying, oh, they're telling me he's whatever he is. I'm not sure about that. It wasn't derogatory. It was just something I didn't believe that there was, I don't know, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, Brother Zafar went to Hajj that following year. And when he came back, I saw a changed man, a completely changed man. And he told me to prepare to go to Hajj, and it's a long story, but I'm going to make it short. I told him I was in school, and I had a lot to do. I couldn't just walk out and leave my job. He said, prepare. So I started preparing anyway. The same year I went to Hajj, he went to Rabah for the very first time. The day I became Ahmadiyya on Hajj.
Okay.
There was a dream I had.
During the Hajj time, you had a dream?
And Haji Amanullah was with me. Yeah. And I explained the dream to him. He said, congratulations, you're now
Can you
Ahmadiyya.
share that dream with us?
The dream was, after I had made my Hajj and came back to Mecca, first I think we were hungry. And a gentleman walked up behind me and told me, and said, Haji Sahib, are you hungry? I said, what? And I said, no, not really. He said, here. He gave me $20. And I told Haji Amanullah, I said, why would he do that? He didn't know me from anything. Anyhow, that night I went home and I went to sleep. That night I dreamt that I was in a mosque with a beautiful green rug. There were no walls. It was just
Open.
just open, just universe-like. And I was praying and crying in this mosque or on the green carpet. When I got up, I don't know what it was, I just felt relieved of my burden. I told Haji Yakub, I said, I had a strange dream last night. And I explained it to him. He said, where were you at? And I said, the green carpet. He said, do you know what the green carpet is? I said, no. He said, in the mosque. Our mosque used to have green carpet in the old mosque. He said, welcome to Ahmadiyya. I said, oh, mashallah. I went to Medina University with the Maldives and all the scholars, with myself, Haji Yakub, Yusuf Latif Sahib, and his wife. And we were talking about the Hajj and the Khalifat. When we asked them about Hajj and Khalifat, they couldn't give us a real answer. They said, we don't talk about those things. Haji Yakub had taken the Hajj out of our car, just that little part of it. And he showed it to these scholars. These scholars said, oh my God, this is it. And I looked at them and said, what? Oh, they're scholars now. Oh, this is the Hajj. This is the way it should be. I said, okay. So I asked about Khilafat. They couldn't explain Khilafat. And I'm saying, now I am an Ahmadi for maybe a year and a half at that time. I've been coming here. I understand Khilafat. You're scholars and you don't understand it. So there must be something to this man Ahmed. And I thought about all the things I talked about. Dr. Muhammad Khan, who was the last translator of the Bukhari, had dinner with him. And I had a dream about this dinner before I went on Hajj that he said something, or someone said something. Haji Yakub got up, took off his jacket to start a fight because they were talking about the Prophet Messiah of Islam. It actually happened. I was sitting next to Dr. Khan, and one of the gentlemen who knew we were Ahmadis asked a question about Hazrat Ahmad. And he called him a liar and said, oh, when he did that, Haji Yakub was taking his jacket off to fight. And I said, sit down, wait a minute. And after that, we settled down. The gentleman talked about our Prophet Messiah, but then he gave the prophecy of the coming of the Prophet Messiah, word for everything I had ever read. I said, that was it. I knew I was Ahmadi. There was no problem with that. So in short, that was where I really realized about being Ahmadi.
Jazakallah was sharing with this.
That's
so I just want to, so you were, during the Hajj time, you're feeling hungry. A strange person approached you and asking you, are you feeling hungry?
Yes.
So you didn't know that person?
No. I had never saw him in my life. As a matter of fact, the $20 that he gave me, I never used it. I had it when I got back to America.
Excellent.
I still had money. I don't know how that happened.
That's what is the direct connection to God.
Yes.
That reminds me of lots of incidents which Khalifat Ahmadiyya, when he was taught, Tawakkaltu Allah and the direct connection to God.
Yes.
And other Khulafa, they has experienced.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
And then, all these dreams having, before even you went there.
But when I came back, it was on a Sunday, and Dr. got back at the same time. And I remember they had already set up an event, we were coming home event or something. So it had already started when Haji Yakub and I came in the door, it had already started. So everybody was downstairs. When I walked in, Brother Zafar had on kameez, the shalwar, arskin, and a turban with the fan. And I said, really, with African clothing, I said, what is this? What is wrong? And every time he spoke about the Khalifa, he would start crying, like I do. We're both emotional. And I said, what is wrong with Brother Zafar? I've never seen him like this. And every time he mentioned the Khalifa's name or tried to say his name, he would cry. So I sat there, and it finally hit me the same way. And when they got ready to speak, I couldn't speak. I said, I can't speak now. But I kept wondering what happened to him. And I asked him about the dress. He said, this is the way my Khalifa dressed. And I'm wearing the clothing of my Khalifa. And as you probably know, we all started wearing kameez and shalwar. I went to Rabwa and had them made. As a matter of fact, he still made them for me.
What year you Rabwa went?
The first time I went to Rabwa was either 74 or 75.
75?
Yeah, yes. about a year after I came back from Hajj.
I left
So
Pakistan.
that time was the Khalifat al-Masih Salis.
Salis.
Well, when I met him,
So when Khalifat Salis died,
Just a minute before you go there. I think you were about to narrate
Yeah.
how when you met Khalifat
when I met
Salis.
Khalifat Salis, I had never seen him before, only in pictures. So I went to the mosque that morning, early in the morning, to meet everybody there. And I sat right in the doorway where he comes in, that little doorway he comes
Yeah.
in. And I sat there, and I remember the mosque filled up, and I'm waiting to see this Khalifa that I've been hearing about. When the doors opened and he stepped in and he spoke, God knows to me it was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my life. Very soft, very sweet, but it resonated in the whole Jamaat. And he was bright, like light. I could not even make out his face. And I said, oh my God, this is the Khalifa. And I started crying, and I went into prostration, I remember. But the whole time I sat there, I couldn't do nothing but look at this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man. And I fell so much in love with him. I said, I'll give my life anytime for him. And I must have said it loud enough for a lot to hear me, because they chose me to become his bodyguard. And I went to Rabwad to be trained as his bodyguard when he came to America. That's how I got to be bodyguard.
oh, you have that honor.
So, any other incident or any other, memory of Hazrat Khalifat Masih Salis?
Oh, God.
Just one which,
When he came to America, we were in the World Trade Center,
okay.
and all the national, international news media was there. That the man with the turban from the East would come to give a message to America. So everybody was there, and I was sitting there with Khalifat Masih, well, standing next to him, really. So me, like everybody else, waiting for our Khalifa to make this big statement about what's going to happen in America. So when they asked all these questions, he sat there very calmly, and they asked him, well, what are you going to bring to the West, to America? And he, in his solemn way, he just looked and said, love. And that's all he said, love. I said, all these people here waiting for you to speak. And they asked him again, what are you going to bring? He said, love. He said it at least 3 times, I know. I said, I know he's going to say more than that. His whole conversation was built on that word, love. I'm bringing love to the Western world. That was the majority of his speech.
Love for all, hatred for none. That was his motto.
Well, he hadn't done that yet.
But that was, that was in his heart for the
Yes,
whole humanity.
it had to be. It had to be. I remember that. I mean, just profoundly, that was. I think another thing that I remember. We were in the Waldorf Astoria where we stayed at, and at that time there was a lot of people trying to get close to the Khalifa. Naturally, the officers, everybody wants to be close to the Khalifa. And I remember that evening for dinner, I had to go back to Washington. I put on my commission shabbat, my turban, everything. And when I came back, I couldn't get in. They said, oh, you can't come in because you don't have no shirt and a tie. I said, what? I said, I'm Haji Amanullah. I'm Zua's entourage. Oh, brother, we know, but we don't need you right now. They tried to send you back downstairs. I remember I said, excuse me, please step aside. I had to get a little rough. So I got in and I went to his door and he asked me what had happened. I explained it to him. So as he sat there, he looked around the room, there were no African Americans in the room. They had stopped every African American from coming into that room to have dinner. Hazur asked, where are the African American brothers? Somebody made some kind of lame excuse. He didn't say anything. He sat there for another 10 minutes, and he told his wife, said, come. He stood up, and he looked at me, and I followed him. He went to the far end of that room, as far away from everybody as he could get, on a little table with 2. He sat there. I stood there with him, and he ate his dinner there. He said, I refuse to eat if my brothers are here from America. And that really touched my heart. The love he had for us, that he showed for us, was just tremendous.
Yeah.
I will never forget that.
That's excellent. Hazrat Masih Maud. I don't know if you know his incident, that there was a, all companion of Hazrat Masih Maud, they were having a dinner. And then he saw a member of the community. He was not at a higher status. And he just came and he sat right in the entrance where the shoes were. And Hazrat Masih Maud went, sat down with him, say, we will have dinner together. So that is the character, that is the teaching, and that is the love of Hazrat Masih Maud, his Khalifa. And I hope each and every Ahmadi, you, I, and all of us have that in our heart for every one of us.
When you mentioned the shoes, I had another picture that he told us the day that he was elected Khalifa. He said he had no idea. We used to call him the ugly duckling because of the way he spoke and everything. So he didn't make any hurry to get to the mosque. So the mosque was packed when he got there, when they had the election. He said he came in and he couldn't get into the mosque. He was sitting among the shoes. So he was sitting like he did with his, he said he was just sitting there thinking, and they heard his name. And they called, he said they heard it a couple of times, and he finally looked up and he saw all these people running to him. He didn't know he had been elected Khalifa. But my point is, he was sitting among the shoes very humbly.
Humble.
Had no idea that this would ever happen to him.
And that is one of the key of true self, is don't have that ego. Don't have, and that is what Hazrat Masih Maud taught us, that he practiced. That's what his Khulafa practiced.
Yes.
And I wish each one of us have that humbleness in ourselves.
If I made one more that just came to my mind, that he told us, we were in Rabah, I think it was 77, 78, but that year it rained extremely hard. There was 200,000, I understand, of Ahmadiyya that year. And we were in the Jostle Guard. Later than that, it had to be 78, 79, somewhere around there. Because his kidneys was affecting him. And he had been kind of ill. So he told us to go into the Jostle Guard. So we went to the Jostle Guard and we sat down. And it's pouring down rain. And they said that he wouldn't be able to come because of his illness and etc. And first when I heard the motorcycle, and I knew who, I said, Huzu is coming. So then the people must say he's coming. So he finally came when he came. That was also the same year that the Maulvi would not let us have microphones. And, wait a minute, no, but that's a different time. No, this is rain. He was raining real hard, and people were trying to keep from getting wet, and we were ducking in a wet drop. And I remember him saying how much God loved us and how he supported us, something of that nature. And he said, and see how he blesses us. And God knows I'm not telling a lie. He did that, and about 5 minutes later, the clouds started moving, and the sun came out. And I bet you within 15 minutes, it was completely dry. When we asked him about it, when we got back and we asked him, he said, I had always wanted to show a miracle, and God allowed me to do that. And I tell people that I really don't believe me, but I was there, it happened. It happened.
Yeah, it's happened.
It happened.
You met Khalifat Ahmadiyya also.
He taught me.
Yeah.
He taught me so much.
Help us, share some your memories with him.
The greatest thing I can remember, he was the most politest person I know in the universe, to me. He taught us endlessly about some of the things we talk about, the sociological content of Islam, as well as tasawwuf, those spiritual things. But the one thing I remember mostly about him before he became Khalifa was every time that we got ready to leave Rabwa, he would come to the bus, we were standing out, he would always say, keep it quiet, and say, you're leaving me, but always leave more with me than you take away. I use the same statement today, but the way he would say it and the tears in his eyes, it made you say, I don't never want to leave you. And he was that kind of personality. When I became his security guard for a short time, the most profound thing I heard him say was 82 or 83, he was in Detroit. And there was Abdul Malik here. And we were sitting there, and Lazur was talking like he always do. Tahir Ahmed was talking about Lazur. I'm going to explain that. And he was talking. Then he changed into a more spiritual nature, and you could feel the change. Abdul Malik Khan Sahib was talking that deep voice, and he was talking very loudly with a group of people. And Huzur stopped, and I thought, oh, something's wrong. And he turned around, he looked at him, he said, Abdul Malik Khan Sahib? He said, you don't talk when the Khalifa is talking. He said, notice I hear Ahmed is one person, but the Khalifa is another person, and I learned that from him. There was a difference in when he was talking as Tahir, a difference with the Khalifa. That was another time I had him. I have so many of them. I was telling my wife and some other people, I am so grateful, Sister Razia, the time that we have spent with the Palm-Messiah's families, members, knowing them, living with them, eating with them, from 1974 all the way up until 1981, 82, we had a close relationship with them, eating with them and knowing them. And they said, you know, there'll come a time that most people will never get a chance to do what you were doing. And that the only time they'll see the Khalifa is from a far off distance when he waves at them. So the time I spent with them and the things I heard them say and do, eating off the plate of the Khalifa, I look at those, I cherish those for the rest of my life. And some of the things that were said personally to me or my family that I don't usually talk about because I get too emotional. But I often wonder why Allah chose me or us to be that close to two Khalifas and their family, and Prophet Messiah's family. I don't know what that was, why it happened. I certainly didn't earn it, but it happened.
It's a blessing of God.
That was truly a blessing of God to me. And I've heard him talk about it. You kind of brought it out of me. But I have a fear, and I've seen it happen already, that a lot of people dislike us. For a while, there were people in certain cities who did like Dayton because we had that closeness with the Khalifa. And they couldn't say anything wrong about Dayton because he would always protect us some kind of way for some reason. So I don't talk about it because I don't want to stir up those feelings about having had that opportunity to do those things. And it sounds like you're being vain. But there's so many things that by the grace of God.
When I'm listening and you're sharing, thanks first of all, Jazakallah was sharing with us these beautiful memories. I believe these are the assets of not only for you but the whole Jamaat. That whatever intentions and objective of our Khalifa is, and that's a big example for each and every Ahmadi. And I hope that we will build on those experiences and have that love and affection among all of us Ahmadi members. Jazakallah. You really touched my heart. You really touched my heart.
Thank you.
Jazakallah.
Thank you.